Hello everybody and welcome to another 2016 Oscar video. I have now seen all 8 films nominated for Best Picture for this year's Academy Awards, and I thought it would be fun to rank them from 8 to 1, meaning from my least favorite to my favorite. And I just want to say a couple things before I get started here. Number one, there will be no spoilers, meaning if you haven't seen any of the films, I will not be spoiling any of them. And number two, I realize this is a very subjective process. If 8 different people did this list, they would probably have 8 completely different orders, or at least I think there would be some differences in each list. So, of course, these are just my subjective opinions, and I will talk about each film a little bit and why I have it ranked where I do. So with that being said, I would like to get started with number 8, which is Bridge of Spies. Now, this is a solid film. It really is. I don't think there's any bad films nominated this year, but that's all it is solid. In my opinion, it is not Oscar worthy. I don't feel it's a Best Picture. It's a conventional good film with solid text, but nothing spectacular that we haven't seen before. And Mark Rylance gives a great performance in this film, but other than him, I really don't think there's that much that's that memorable about it. I saw it not that long ago, and I'm already struggling to remember certain key points. Also, being a Spielberg film, I feel like it's a bit overly sappy at times and uses these kind of scenes to try and make you feel more than you really need to. It's just a very by-the-book film, and it's fine, but I don't really think it'll be remembered as a great film. Of course, time will tell, but I feel like the real reason this film got a Best Picture nomination is because it was made by Steven Spielberg. I'm sorry, that's just kind of how I feel about it. Not a bad film, but certainly nothing that I feel is great or Oscar-worthy. Now I'm probably going to take some heat for my next choice because I'm sure a lot of people would have it ranked higher up based on what I know of this award season, but at number 7, The Revenant. First of all, let me just say this is a great technical achievement. There's no denying that. And for that reason, I don't really have a problem with it being nominated for Best Picture. It's got very, very strong acting, and what they went through to get this film made, the conditions they shot in, and the cinematography, all that stuff is really amazing. But there are some problems in this film. It has a very simple plot, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's really, really slow, and it has a lot of pacing issues. There's a lot of scenes that are just very repetitious, where kind of the same things just keep happening over and over again, just because they went out of their way to shoot in these conditions, and they wanted to get all these shots of scenery. Doesn't mean you have to make the film over long, in my opinion. And the climax of the film is really good. It really is, but it takes so long to get there, you don't care as much as you should. I think in a better film, the build-up would have worked in the film's favor. Here, it's just like, oh, finally the climax, we get it. I don't really think it works that well. So it's a really good film and a worthy nominee for the technical achievement and cinema that it is, but I don't feel like it's Best Picture worthy. From here on out, from 6 through 1, it got tougher for me to rank the films, as I really liked them all quite a bit. So at number 6, I have The Martian. This is a solid, entertaining, crowd-pleasing film with an excellent lead performance from Matt Damon. However, if I do have a few issues, I would say some of the other characters, you just don't care about them that much because the focus is all on Matt Damon, but I felt they could have fleshed them out a little bit better. And yes, the film has very good technicals and would make for an entertaining rewatch, but I just don't feel like it's a great film. I feel like it's a very good, entertaining film, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just wouldn't pick it for Best Picture. And another thing, there were a few too many MTV-style music video clips in this film for my liking, and if you see it, you'll see what I mean by that. I do feel it's a very worthy nominee. It's an excellently written and directed film. I just don't feel like it should win Best Picture. But definitely a step up from the other 2 films on the list so far, in my opinion. At number 5, it was really tough between 5 and 4 for me, but I ultimately settled on Room. Now, this is a really intense film that you really find yourself caring about what happens in, and it has some really, really great acting. The first half and second half of the film are very different in mood because of what the story is about, but the film pulls it off. The intensity stays there for the most part. There's very few different settings in this film, but you stay involved the whole time. I thought the pacing was very good. A couple things that are a little bit strange. The lead actress at times kind of disappears from this film, and it feels a little weird when she's not there to help carry the film. Maybe that's just something that had to be that way because of the way the story is written, but I found that to be just a little bit off. And also there's a couple really odd use of shots in this film. I won't give any spoilers away, but I just felt at times like I was questioning some of the decisions as far as like angles and close-ups and things like that, and I actually thought they were glaring enough that I remember them and that I'm bringing it up. But still, it's a great film. It has a lot of feeling, and it's kind of a unique film. I haven't seen anything like it. So despite those little complaints, I actually think this would be a pretty good Best Picture winner. We're in the part of the list now where I thought if any of these films, would win, it would be okay. But Room is at number 5, and at number 4 is Spotlight. This is a very solid, interesting film. It has really, really good acting all across the board. It's probably got the best script of the year, in my opinion. If not, it's definitely right up there. It's very well paced, and I think the editing is a little underrated. This could have been a very boring, clinical type feeling movie if it wasn't edited and written so well. I was involved the whole time. It didn't feel slow or draggy, and overall it's just very solid. I do have one slight issue with this film as far as Best Picture goes. I feel like the production values are good. They're solid for what they need to be, but they're just not great. I feel like a Best Picture winner should be a little bit more of a cinematic achievement. This is just kind of very by the numbers, and it did feel just a little bit like a school lesson, just a little bit. I don't know if that could have been helped, but it just felt a little bit, kind of like a TV movie of the week feel, but it's still a great film, as I feel like writing, acting, editing, and directing are usually all the most important parts of this type of film, a drama, and Spotlight, succeeds at all of these things. I just personally like something that feels a little more grand, like more of a technical achievement to win Best Picture. But that's just me, and Spotlight would be a worthy winner. Now, number 3, The Big Short. This was a complex and interesting film. I thought it did a great job of making a subject matter that was hard to understand, very relatable. It could have been a boring film, but it was very well paced and very cleverly edited. The editing might be a little jarring and flashy at times, but I feel like you get used to it after the first 10 minutes or so. The acting is really good. There's a lot of plots going on, but the film keeps it all together. You're never confused as to what's going on. At least I was, and I thought it did a great job there. But the thing that puts The Big Short this low on the list for me, or this high, depending on how you look at it, is that this film had a lot of feeling and a lot of heart to it, which is not something I expected in a film about the subject matter. The one little thing that was a little strange was some odd cameo scenes that some of them worked better than others. I felt some of them felt a little bit just kind of thrown into the film, but they do explain things about the film, so that was a clever way to do it. It's fine. I just thought a few of them were a little jarring, but overall, The Big Short is a great film that really surprised me. I expected nothing going in, and I got a lot out of it, and I feel like it's very relevant and will continue to be a relevant film in the years to come. Now we go to my top 2 films that are nominated for Oscars, and actually probably 2 of my 3 top films of the year, period. And at number 2 is Brooklyn. This was almost a perfect movie for me. It has a very conventional story, but it plays it very naturally. And what I really liked about Brooklyn, that I'm not sure it's getting enough credit for, is I feel like all the characters could have been written to be stereotypes, but none of them are. They all feel like they're very realized individual characters, and they're all interesting. Even the supporting characters in this film all have a personality, and I was interested in all of them. This film flew by. It was paced great. When it ended, I actually thought there was like a half hour left, even though it's right around a 2-hour movie. Which brings me to the casting. I think this was the best cast film of the year. Every part, from the main parts to people that have basically one line to people that are standing in the background. I thought all the casting of this film was great. If there was a casting award at the Oscars, which there's not, I think Brooklyn should get it hands down. I also feel like it's a very rewatchable movie, and it just feels very natural and authentic. The techs are fine. You could say they're a little more, on the non-flashy side, like something like Spotlight. But in this film, in my personal opinion, I did feel that they at least felt at a theatrical quality or level of quality. It just felt like more of a cinematic achievement to me personally. And overall, I think Brooklyn is a great film. And it's kind of odd because this normally would never rank this high on my list. It's kind of a romantic drama with some history behind it. But I thought this film was just so well done. It was just about perfect. Pretty close, but really for me, number one was a very easy choice. There was only one film I thought was truly a great all-time classic film this year, and if you've been keeping track and you know the nominees, then you'll know my number one pick is Mad Max Fury Road. Like I said, I thought this was a great film. It had really solid acting for a straight-up action film, and I actually cared about what happened to the characters, even though it didn't feel like there was that much character development, but there actually was. It was just done through a visual style instead of through a written style, which can be harder to do. Sometimes it didn't have that script to fall back on, especially in the first half of the film. The fact that I cared was a great achievement. It also had great text. There were about 5 times when I watched this movie that I opened my mouth and just said, how did they get that shot? The visuals are excellent. They used a lot of practical effects, which I really appreciated. The score, I think, is a little bit underrated and very good. It has great pacing, some of the best editing I think I've ever seen. There was so much going on in this movie, and yet I always knew what was what and who was who, and all the action seemed seamless. That's just a great job. If nothing else, Mad Max deserves an editing award, but that's a point for another day. I just felt like it was a memorable film. I did rewatch it on TV, and it held up just as well as it did in the cinema, in my opinion, which is a great feat as well. It's just so well made. And I feel like this is the one film this year that was at best in its kind of film, meaning I think it was one of the best action films that I've ever seen. I just feel like it was about as well made as a straight up action film can be. And that's saying a lot for me because straight up action, I enjoyed, it's entertaining, but it's rarely ever my favorite film of the year because it's just not normally my favorite type of film to watch. But in this case, I think Mad Max Fury Road will be a classic, and I think it'll be the most remembered film from this year. Of course, time will tell whether I'm right or wrong on that, but I just feel like this is the one film that people will look back on as an absolute classic in the years to come. I'm sure there'll be a few others, as well as a few films that weren't nominated, but overall for me, Mad Max Fury Road is an easy winner for Best Picture, and unfortunately it probably won't win, but I'm really glad the film and director George Miller were nominated. So those are my picks from 8 through 1. If you'd like in the comments, you can tell me if I'm right, if I'm wrong. You can give me your order, and if you feel like writing a bit, you can even, tell me why you picked the order that you did. So I will have an Oscar prediction video coming out a little later, a little bit closer to the Oscar show, and that's about it. As always, thanks very much for watching.